This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is it's a much nicer Wednesday today.
Pretty nice out, yeah.
My goodness, was that nasty yesterday.
I forget who I was chatting with, and they said, kind of strange that we've experienced all 4 seasons in the month of April. It's pretty true.
Seen all 4 seasons this week.
This week, yeah. I think that's true, too. That was a dude I was chatting with at the beer distributor.
It was snowing sideways at my house yesterday when I got home.
Right. A couple days ago, it was like sunny and shorts and sunglasses, and today feels like spring.
I get home, and I'm on a text chain with all the other league presidents from the Baseball Association, and I'm like, I am canceling Pony. Like, well, I don't know. I might. The Pinto guy had his Pinto, 7 and 8 year olds.
Okay.
They played.
They were fine.
I'm like, you're out of your mind.
They're tough little goggers.
I understand it. You don't have to. They don't pitch. It's coach pitch.
So okay,
you're not worried about somebody hurting their arm or something like that. But a little cold.
Yeah, a little chilly. Yeah, it was pretty nasty yesterday.
Cold and wet. Not a good combination.
Today feels like a week before the draft.
Yeah.
Like normal April.
Absolutely. Matt, the Steelers finished up their pre-draft visits, as did everybody in the league today.
Today's the limit.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had Darius Alexander in, the defensive tackle from Toledo.
I knew he was on the list, but we didn't know when and all that, so I guess he arrived. Good.
Made me think about guys that are overrated and guys that are underrated, in your opinion, in this draft.
Okay.
I think Alexander's a little underrated.
I do too. I think he's an impact player that – I mean, it seems like a lot of people have him outside the top 50 type. And when you say underrated, overrated, I think he'd be firmly in the top 50. I mean, and
he would be for me,
drafted accordingly, let alone for the Steelers, and he'd be even higher on the list. I mean, I think he was at the very end of our 21. No, I think he's a quality player that maybe gets a little bit lost with all the defensive tackles in this draft.
Yeah.
And the school we went to doesn't help probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I when people talk about, the Harmon or Grant, they never had to deal with any double teams. Well, I guarantee you, Darius Alexander double teamed a lot.
Oh, sure.
At Toledo.
Yeah, you get a name for yourself pretty quick when you start throwing dudes around, and you're the focus of everything. Yeah, 100%.
But so we know who those are, and I think, to me, this year, more so than any other year, because there's the blue chippers, I think there's only 4 in this draft. Picks 5 through
at least a dozen.
60.
Yeah,
are all going to have similar grades on them.
Yeah, I think they'll just be eye of the beholder type stuff.
Yeah,
I absolutely think more so this draft. That, man, just even if you're just ranking the edge guys 1 to 10, I'm not sure any team will have them similar, let alone, and they'll be the same names, but 1 or 3 could be 10 on the board. I mean, there's a lot of variance at almost every position. I mean, there's not a consensus rank at many positions that I think people are, okay, I'll buy that. Maybe running back. Speaking of which, I just wanted to throw this out there because I was blown away by this. Did a podcast this morning. We were talking about fantasy, but we were talking about Travion Henderson. His over-under right now in Vegas, if you're to draft, bet his slot, depending on what book you look at, is either 19.5 or 21.5. Steelers are 21.
Yeah.
They've been there. He's been on a visit.
Well, the over-under for running backs in the first round is 2.5.
I think the whole world thinks he's going now.
Yeah.
And the conversation was, would you rather have him or Hampton? I'm like, I'd rather Hampton. But I think Vegas is telling us 3 are going to go, and maybe 3 are going to go before the Steelers pick.
Yeah.
And I think people are linking the Steelers to them, too, considering the numbers 21.5 in some books,
Yeah. I think Josh Simmons from Ohio State is underrated.
I think all the tackles are.
Yeah. I think Simmons in particular because of the injury.
Yeah.
But he was back on the field at their pro day, which leads me to believe he will at least be back by the start of training camp. And if he were a clean prospect, I think he's a top 15 prospect, and he's not going to go anywhere near the top 15.
What's crazy is the very first mock we did for Steelers.com, pre-Combine, it was like a month before Combine. I mean, this was early in the process. I had him going 4 to the Patriots. And I flat out said, I know it's early in the process. All these injured dudes, Benjamin, Ravel, I'm going to give them all the benefit of the doubt and pretend like they're healthy because it's early. I'm sure at some point they'll work out. He's a left tackle. He's the most talented left tackle in the class.
I don't care if he's finesse. I don't care. He's a left tackle.
They don't go 31st.
Right.
And even like Connerly to me is a tackle. I mean, economics tell you tackles are hard to find. I think Ursery is one of my most underrated players too. I mean, he's really athletic for being a huge tackle. People have him going 40th, 50th. I'm sitting there looking at the Chiefs and Eagles going, are they going to pass on these tackles? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't think the Chiefs will.
No, I don't think they will either. I think if you take the bird in hand.
To your point about 5 not being that much different than, let's just say 32, not all the way to 60. The rest of the first round after Genty and Ward and those guys are off the board, I think that really favors the smart teams and the good teams. Like the Ravens have this history and this reputation of, we don't care what position it is. You're going to give us Hamilton, we're going to take him. We're going to give us Linderbaum, I'm going to take him. Well, I look at like the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, the Steelers. I mean, like some of these teams that don't have great needs, we might look at the end of the first round and be like, why did we let that guy go to the Eagles? You know what I mean? I could see that a lot this year.
Yeah. I think Kyle Williams, the Washington State wide receiver, is vastly underrated.
Vastly underrated. The same podcast I was talking about with Henderson, I'm like, this guy has to go on day 2. I mean, I
don't understand this stuff with him in the hundreds or 150s. I don't get it.
I mean, we stole him probably under the table in mocks for weeks and weeks, and round 5, round 6, no chance. And we were talking about our top 5 receivers. His name popped up as, is he that far from number 5? I mean, if there's 4 that everybody kind of likes, maybe Higgins is your 5. I like the Stanford dude. I mean, there's, Noel is impressive. There's a lot of them, but he's right kind of in that mix.
Yeah.
Big play guy, route runner.
Yeah. I think Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal, is being underrated because he didn't run as fast as he's a 4.5.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a 4.5.
He's another one.
If he ran a 4.49, I think people would look at him differently than how they're looking at him now.
Which is dumb.
Which is stupid.
Which is dumb, right. He's long. He can play press.
Takes the ball away.
Takes the ball away. He's another one to me. I agree with all the names you mentioned. I think he should be a 3rd rounder. Maybe if he went 60th, I would understand it.
Right. We know my Robinson from Nebraska. I believe,
yeah.
Vastly underrated by many.
His style of play just translates. He's hard to play against. He's a pain in the butt.
He's Braden Fisk.
Right.
Braden Fisk went in the 2nd round last year. They're almost the same guy.
Yeah, they're similar.
They just go in and just they're Tasmanian devil on the field.
They are. They
just make moves and get to the quarterback.
I don't need him to play 70 snaps,
No. Looking at some of the guys I think are overrated in this draft. Man, basically everybody who is marked down to go in the top 15.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't, when people talk about, the Steelers need to trade up. For what?
I don't say for what.
For what?
And I wonder if the league's going to get smarter and be like, so this is a different conversation. Like, I bet there are a lot of D linemen go in the 1st round. Edge, nose, everything, all the above. But all the edges, there's so many edges. I wonder if people say, give me Nolan instead of Michael Williams. I mean, like all the edges have something wrong with them or some concern where I kind of feel like Harmon, Nolan, Grant, who we talked to death, might also all be underrated.
I think they are to a degree because I think they should
be.
They're
all sitting there at 21. That seems like a
doesn't seem
like that shouldn't happen. Right.
It really shouldn't. I think that's why the Steelers had some of the visits that they did have.
Mm-hmm.
I think those guys are being underrated. I look at the 2 Georgia edge rushers. I think they're both being overrated.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the guards being underrated. I like the guards.
Yeah, the guards are good.
They're solid starting guards. No one talks about them like, it's a bad guard class.
But everybody blows up both edge rushers. Michael Williams has no production.
Where's he play on 1st down? I mean, unless you're like in a 3-4 and you're stand up, in a 2-point stance, he can't be in a 4-man front in a base 4-3. I think he's a definition of it. He's high character. He's a captain. He's active. He's productive.
Great.
That's all great.
That should be the icing on the cake.
Right.
Not the reason you draft the guy.
Right. That's not – and that's how this draft is.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about Graham to no end. For him to be one of the first defensive players off the board to me is nuts, but I'm not sure who deserves it ahead of him. I don't think Walker does, No,
I mean, Jalen Walker's 6'1", 243. And I understand,
little, right?
He's basically the same height that James Harrison was. Well, that's great, except James Harrison played at like 260 pounds.
No,
and it was all muscle.
All muscle and way different leverage guy and way more fierce against the run and harder to move and more physical. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's like if you're picking 8, 9, 10, you have to take someone, but no one's worth it. Is Ted McMillan worth those picks? No.
That's why the tight ends might just because the tight ends I don't think are overrated.
No, I think they're solid.
Yeah,
yeah,
and they might just be the best player. I know these guys aren't. They're both going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
They're both going to be good football players. There's no guesswork here. They're both, and I think they end up going higher than what. Maybe some people, well, not Warren in Warren's case, but I think Loveland ends up going higher as well than maybe some people are saying.
If the Colts are fixated on a tight end, maybe Warren's gone, you think Loveland, and they're both off
I trust
the board.
Both of those guys more than I trust any of the receivers in this draft.
Yeah, I do too. Even Golden, I like, but he doesn't play like, I mean, if he doesn't run a 4.3, but a sub 4.3, we're not talking about him in the same light, and he doesn't play that way. I mean, and I think that he shocked himself to even do it. I don't think he's a 4.3 guy, period. He had a real good run.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks get out of 21, just get a bunch of stuff on day 2, and something's going to hit.
But somebody's got to want to move up. I mean, it's the constant. I hear that all the time. Well, the Steelers should trade down. They need to trade down. You got to have a trade partner.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to want to come up to get one of those players.
I wonder if the tackles are the thing that people trade up for. I mean, if you could get Ohio State dude off the board and then they're moving up for Connerly or something like that. I mean, it's odd. But, man, I still think one of those 3 defensive tackles that we talk about all the time, pretty safe. I mean, I think that those guys it's hard to poke holes in what they have. And, again, back to what I was saying, good football players are going to be there at the end of the first round that are not much different than the 6th pick in the draft.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think what people need to guard themselves against in this particular draft is just looking at what the quote-unquote experts put out there as their top 50 or their mock drafts. We're going to do a mock draft next week on Thursday, the day of the draft, where me, and Mike Pursuta will make every third pick. And last year, we get 26 or 27 of the.
We'll be worse this year.
There's no doubt. I have no doubt in my mind. If we get 20 this year, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and that was even just landing them in the first round, let alone not landing spot, same spot, everything. Yeah, I think we'll be lucky to do
because there's going to be so much variance. Like you're going to see guys. I don't care whose rankings you pull up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see guys who are and probably multiple guys rated in the 40s going in the first round.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. And really, I think a better way of looking at this draft, and all drafts, but this one it stands out more, is look at Lance Zierlein's grades as opposed to a top 50. Because the 40th guy and the 20th guy could be close grade-wise, but if you're just looking at a list, they don't look close at all.
Right. That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. I mean, again, if you're just looking at a list, you got to put a list together.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, number 20 and number 40 are a long ways away from each other, but grades-wise,
they might be real similar. They might be the same tier.
They might have the same grade.
Yeah, they could absolutely be same tier or very close, even if they play the same position.
Right.
It's
just the way this draft is. It's a really weird one. Maybe again, I've done this 33 years now. This might be the strangest draft that I can remember.
I tend to agree. I mean, even like the premier prospects, Hunter and Carter, they're a little weird too. I mean, one was a stand-up linebacker that's going to end, which also brings me back to Walker. Everyone thinks that's such a strength. Well, he can also play linebacker. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want him dropping in the coverage if he's my best pass rusher. I'm drafting him to rush the passer.
If I'm going to take him in the top 12.
I mean, I adore Hunter, but is he going to play 130 snaps a game?
Well, and he came, he came out yesterday or the day before and said that if he doesn't get to play both ways, then he's just going to quit.
I heard something like that too. Right. Not exactly the smartest statement by the camp, but right.
Again, this is what happens when you get a bunch of NIL money.
Mm-hmm.
You can. I've got $10 million in the bank. If I play in the NFL or not,
I'll be okay.
I'll be okay. Fine.
Yeah. And I'm sure he will get the opportunity, but why even say it?
But it's just a different mentality for today's athletes. I mean, you had the kid from Tennessee walk away without another deal in place.
Yeah,
he's not getting anywhere near the 2.4 or 2.5 million that he was going to.
I assume not.
He wanted to raise from at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like the offers now are like $1 million.
Really?
Like you made a bad business move. You didn't have the leverage.
I mean, I sound like an old man. We sound like old men. These young, but they're young kids. I mean, a lot of them are 17, 16-year-olds making these decisions, or 18, 19, where it used to be you were 21, Jamarcus Russell, first-round pick, making bad decisions, But now you're 4 years younger making bad decisions, you know?
Yeah, it's bad.
And they got a lot of money in their pocket. The draft in general, though, is odd.
I tend to think guys like Gray Zabel are overrated. And Booker are overrated in this particular draft. I'm not taking an interior offensive lineman in the first round where these guys are going, especially in this draft.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good point too. I mean, they're not Faneca coming out of LSU.
These are
Hutchinson coming out of Michigan. Or,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like you're taking a guy who's going to be who projects as a mid-round
good starter.
Yeah, good starter. Okay, great. But I don't want to pay him $25 million in 4 years.
I mean, if you look at the last 20, 30 years of the NFL draft, good starter interior linemen, they go 38 to a bad team. You know what I mean? The team that needs O-line help that got something good in the first round, and then you go get your guard and plug him in for 10 years, and maybe he goes to a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
That's kind of who those are to me.
I think I can count on one hand the number of centers drafted in the first round since 2020.
Oh,
it's like 4.
Yeah.
In five drafts, they don't go that high.
They don't go that high. They're day 2 players.
Yeah, you better be really, really good. And so I think some of those guys are getting pushed up a little bit more than where they should be. Oh, he's a really good prospect. I'm going to list. Gray Zabel could play tackle. Not in the NFL, he can't.
Right. And I don't know what your rankings were, but when we do our triple takes and you do your 5 interior O linemen, I think Zabel was my 1. Most years he'd be my 4.
Yeah. Is he really that different than the 2 Georgia tackles or guards? I should say.
Right.
Not really.
I was just say. I mean, there's a little bit of hindsight here, but would Zach Frazier be my number 1 interior O lineman if we did this 1 year ago? I mean, I think he's a better prospect than Zabel or Booker.
Yeah,
and not even. No, by the way, he succeeded. I think Powers Johnson is. I think Barton is. You know, I mean, all those guys. I think last year's draft is so much better.
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of it. Yeah.
Now, I think defensively this one is better, just in terms of what's available to you there.
There are a lot of D linemen.
But in terms of offensive line, wide receivers, quarterbacks, not even close.
No. And again, there's some quarterbacks very true this way too, but 4th and 5th round, there's wide receivers and corners and quarterbacks we've known that are really growing on me. That I don't look are that much different than the round 2 guys. You know what I mean? I mean, Noel Williams is a perfect example. Would you rather have him or Azare Thomas?
I'd rather have Noel Williams.
Right.
Yeah.
And everyone on the planet has them noticeably 2 rounds apart. No.
Yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I bet NFL teams, when they're grading these guys, have them a lot closer than that.
Yeah. Because, again, they're using grades, not – using rounds is the wrong way to do it, too. Yeah. But that's a media-driven thing. The league doesn't look at it like we got 32 first-rounders. We're going to put grades on them, and it's eventual starter or immediate starter or whatever. Yeah. They all have
that's
definitions.
The thing. I think maybe this year there might be 12 or 13 quote-unquote first-round grades.
Yeah. Lower than most.
I think there's 4 blue chippers.
Mm-hmm. You count Ward as the 4th?
Yeah,
because
he's a quarterback.
Yeah, right. And I think Ward counts because of even without the quarterback.
He'd go in the first round in most drafts.
I think he goes the first top 5 in most drafts.
Yeah.
Maybe not QB1, but some he would.
But then after that, I think you got a bunch of guys with, you see it in a lot of different places, the 1, 2 next to their name.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff coming out now. Well, a lot of teams don't have a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders. Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine. I
100% get it. I wouldn't either. If
that doesn't mean he's not going to go at 18 or somewhere like that because he probably has a 1 second round grade on him.
Yeah.
And there's going to be 60 guys that have a
60,
second round grade on them.
Which is how we started this conversation. That's Alexander to me.
Yeah.
Like, I do like those three that we always talk about, Grant, Harmon, and Nolan, more than Alexander. But are they that much different? I mean, they light years different where one doesn't solve they all don't solve your problem.
The biggest difference is the age thing.
I don't love the age with him.
Yeah,
I don't know how much
3 years older than those other guys.
And I don't know how much that would ding me if it's my turn on the board and he's my top guy. I think I'm fine with it. I mean, who knows how long you get out of these guys anyways. But I don't love that part about him in particular.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we welcome in on the Justin Miller hotline the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears, and the great white shark of Steelers coverage, Bob Labriola. How you doing, Labs?
Good, guys. How are we doing? We all ready for next Thursday or what?
Yeah, I couldn't get here soon enough, to be honest.
Absolutely. Can't wait to no longer be talking about this particular draft and to actually be talking about, I don't know, things like who's actually on the team.
Yeah,
now.
where they land, and
things like
and
that.
All that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Quit talking about what you think's going to happen and talk about what actually does happen.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That's the world we live in. So, Labs, this will be the 5th time in the Steelers' history since 1970, with the modern history, that the Steelers will have had the 21st pick in the draft.
Huh.
Do you know the players that they took at 21 in the previous 4 times?
Wow, I'd be impressed if you do.
Well, here's the...
What's this, Jeopardy?
Yes.
I do know.
Well, the first came in 1974.
That would be Lynn Swan.
That would be Lynn Swan. Okay, the second time came in 1977.
77, Benny Cunningham.
No, it wasn't Benny Cunningham. That was Robin Cole.
Right, Robin Cole, okay.
1983 was the next time they picked at 21. Everybody knows this one, unfortunately.
Gabe Rivera.
Yeah, Gabe Rivera. And then in 1990 was the last time that they've had the 21st pick in the draft. They took Eric Green.
Decent success.
So they've got some good players at picking at 21.
Disagree with that.
Well,
whoever commented on Eric Green.
he was a good player for the Steelers. I'm not saying he was a great player.
I make a one Hall of Famer out of the group. That's not too bad.
He went to 2 Pro Bowls.
No, I was just talking about Eric Green.
Oh, I just meant in general.
I know you weren't a fan. You're not a fan of in general of taking tight ends in the first round. I get it, but
I'm not a fan of him
okay.
specifically. And the way I look at it is that was Joe Walton's fault. So that allows me to kind of lump 2 of my least favorites together.
I'm sure you also know the last time the Steelers went into a draft, or not went into a draft, but traded their second round pick in a draft for a player straight up.
I'm drawing a blank here.
That would be one Jerome Bettis.
Ah, okay. That worked out all right, too.
That worked out okay, too. So some of the moves that they've made were the way this draft lines up. I mean, they already traded their second. I'm not saying DK Metcalf's Jerome Bettis by any stretch of the imagination.
He's not too shabby, though.
But he could be an impact player like Bettis. And you've got the 21st pick in the draft where you got guys like Lynn Swan.
Yeah.
Robin Cole was a longtime starter for the team.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten good value out of that pick over the years.
Gabe might have been all right.
Gabe might, yeah. I mean, we just don't know. And if they'd have taken Dan Marino there, well, who knows what happens. But it's just all part of the intrigue of the draft. You just don't know, given year to year, how this whole thing goes.
Yeah, and, so much of it, again, there's a lot of hard work, certainly, that goes into preparing for the draft, but you need luck. I mean, you just do. The way the picks unfold. I've told this story, 1985. Bill Nunn had done a lot of work on this Mississippi Valley State receiver that turned into a pretty decent player. And he convinced Chuck Noll that that was the guy. And the Steelers were all set to pick him. And right at the last minute, I mean, the 49ers traded up above him and picked Jerry Rice. So, Dale, you mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, 1983, Dan Marino.
I say, whatever, Marino to Rice could have been something. Huh?
Yeah, might have changed history a little bit. Steelers history, I mean, certainly those two guys went on.
Probably would have changed league history a little bit, too.
Yeah. Might be more trophies, too, in the 80s.
Yeah, great Hall of Famers that they were. But but anyway, yeah, that's what you need. You can do all the work. You can be right about, your conclusions that you have come to about certain players and how those players might, fit within your team, your roster. But you got to have an opportunity to pick them. And sometimes that doesn't even happen.
So speaking of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, we've heard nothing on that front. What do you want the quarterback room to look like post-draft? Or what do you expect the quarterback room to look like going into Latrobe? I mean, do we have any clue? I mean,
I don't.
Where are you at? Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean,
I know.
I don't. And I don't know what I want it to look like. I don't know that there's, I'd like Joe Burrow to be the starter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would want. But, I mean, that's not real. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. And whatever it does look like, I don't know if it's going to – I won't know if it's a path to success or a path to disaster until, it all unfolds. I mean, it's kind of like the draft itself. You can't judge it immediately after. And so, yeah.
No one seems super concerned, but I'm getting super concerned.
Well, again, I don't know. I don't think that that the degree of not knowing that I currently possess right now necessarily translates to the Steelers. I mean, I don't think, I think they have a lot more idea of what might happen than the public does. And, we've talked about this before. The Steelers don't show their cards in this kind of thing. If whatever Aaron Rodgers said to them during that meeting when he was in Pittsburgh, it's like going into the confessional and telling the priest your sins.
Mm-hmm.
That's never revealed, and you can be confident in that in terms of a player in his conversations with the people that he talked to in that setting, in terms of it being leaked to the media or revealed or whatever. The Steelers don't talk about that kind of stuff, and so I don't know if the situation is in fact what it might appear to be to us at this particular time. I just don't know, and so
that's how I've kind of looked at it the last couple of weeks. But it just seems like, what's the hang up here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is, and what I try and do, seriously, stay off social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I sleep good.
So, Bob, in the last 2 years, basically since Omar Khan has been the GM, the Steelers have had their pre-draft visits. In 2023, they brought in, for pre-draft visits, Broderick Jones, Joey Porter, Keanu Benton, and Darnell Washington. Were all among their top 30 visits. First 4 draft picks that year. Last year, they brought in Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Peyton Wilson, Mason McCormick, and Logan Lee. Were all part of their pre-draft visits.
That's 9 total?
9 total in the last 2 years out of 60 guys that they brought in. Does that mean we can absolutely count on the guys that they brought in this year, the 30 guys. There were 9 running backs and 8 defensive linemen and 4 quarterbacks and 4 wide receivers, some other ancillary pieces, I think 3 cornerbacks. We can absolutely count on the Steelers taking 3 or 4 or 5 of those guys.
You can. I'm not. Because as I was just saying, it depends on how the picking goes. And, a lot of those pre-draft visits, again, that's part of the information gathering process. If, for example, the Steelers talk to a guy at the Combine, or say at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, went to his pro day, took him out to dinner, maybe they don't need him to bring him in again. Maybe there isn't any other issues that they have. Maybe there isn't any final medical issues or checks or things to check. Maybe they've already had him on the board. Maybe he's already met whichever coordinator, offense or defense, he's going to be, whatever side of the ball he's on. Again, because you can massage the narrative any way you want. T.J. Watt didn't make a top 30 visit, so there's that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, whatever way you want to tell the story, there are exceptions to the rule, and so I don't think you can say, based on their visits, they're going to pick these guys, or based on the visits, they're going to pick these players, because the Lawrence Timmons draft too. There was a guy, I forget his name now, that was all linked to the Steelers, because that was the year, Joey Porter, his last season in Pittsburgh was 2006. And so by then I think Joey Porter had gone to the Dolphins by the time of the draft.
Yeah.
It was some Texas A&M guy. I can't think of his name. He was linked to the Steelers. They're going to pick him. They're going to pick him. They're going to pick him. He was there. They didn't pick him, and they picked Lawrence Timmons, who was not only the guy that everybody thought they were going to pick, but he didn't even play the position that everybody thought that the Steelers were going to draft to fill the spot of a guy that they just lost. So, again, I've been around a lot of these drafts, and when you think you know who it is, or you think you know what position it is, you really don't. And because, again, one of the things, if I were going to give you one aspect of Thursday night that I am confident is going to happen, there's going to be a pick where I go, wow, didn't see that one coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing about the draft. A lot of the information you think you're getting either isn't true, it could be a smokescreen, or you're getting all the information and then and even if it's right, but the way the way it unfolds, it's not possible for it to happen that way. That's why I'm ready for April 24th to come around, as I said, so we can quit talking about what we think is going to happen and start talking about what actually does happen. Because I think once it's all said and done and the first 20 picks are made, then I think the 21st pick is going to make some sense, once it is made. That's been my experience.
So, Labs, I know you don't break down the prospects like crazy going into the draft, and you get to know them a lot more, obviously, once they become Steelers. But I find it really interesting that they pick 21, and then they don't pick again till 83, I think it is. And Alexander, who is in today from Toledo, I can't imagine him going 21, but I can't imagine him being there at 83. Like, a high percentage of their 30 visits fall in that range after they're going to pick and well before they're going to pick the next time. Do you think they're really gearing up to be moving around the board, if I'm right about that?
Again, I'm going to keep saying what I've been saying.
Yeah, I hear you.
What you say that these picks are slotted to go in a certain area of the draft, that doesn't, no offense,
Sure,
that doesn't make it true.
no doubt.
That's what is thought. That's the guess at this point. And so, we're going to find out because if there was such a thing as top 30 visits in 1983, there would have been a lot of people thinking, what is Miami bringing Dan Marino in for? He's never going to last that long.
Mm-hmm.
And then their second-round pick will certainly be gone by then, or whatever. This is part of the pre-draft phase or period that we're into right now. I mean, I think everybody's just looking, trying to add 1 and 1 and come up with whatever total that fits the point that they're trying to make. I mean, what you're saying about these top 30 visits, may be true. Maybe all of the guys they're bringing in are in that range. But, we've talked about this before. If you're at 21 and Derek Harmon is there, and you think, well, this guy's he's more like the 31st overall pick. Don't want to reach for him at 21. But if you can't get him, if you don't pick him at 2021 and reach for him, quote unquote, you're not going to have a chance to get him after that.
Yeah.
That's always my point about trading down. Yeah, it sounds good, and it looks good maybe in the next day's analysis of how a team manipulated the process. But who did you get or who did you miss? To me, those are the more important things. And I'll use the Dan Rooney quote all the time. The thing with scouts is they're trying to win the draft. The idea is you're trying to win the Super Bowl. So is it wise to trade down for extra picks to get into the range that we're just talking about? But then who did you not get a chance to add to your team by doing that? Again, I don't. A lot of these things, you really don't know the answer to them until it's several years down the line, and you find out who these players actually are. Because trading up for Devin Bush the day that it happened looked like genius. 3 years later, it goes down as one of the worst picks in recent Steelers history. Jarvis Jones, another one. Wow, what a great pick that was. Whatever he was, 15th, 17th overall. You just picked a guy who led the SEC in sacks back-to-back years, and you're putting him on the edge. What a great pick that was. Didn't turn out to be that. Again, all this is fun right now, but we're not going to have any real answers for a couple of years, I don't think.
Absolutely. Well, Labs, we will see you at the facility next week when we do all this fun stuff. And, we'll hear from Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan early next week sometime.
Really?
And
okay.
We'll get an opportunity to have them not tell us who they're going to pick in the draft.
Right. I'm sure they'll open up all the secrets. Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, I'm not. That's not a shot at Mike Tomlin and Omar.
No,
Khan.
not at all. Nor should they tell you.
As an old man, I've been through a lot of these, and I can tell you nobody has ever told you anything in those press conferences.
Unless you're picking number 1 overall, it's all you have no idea.
Yeah, and then the press conference is after.
They wouldn't tell you then either.
And the press conference is after. I'm sure they're going to say good things about the guys they picked too.
Yes.
They're not going to be like, we really didn't want to take this guy, but we had to.
That's one I would like to hear.
Yeah, like, boy, that's the worst case scenario. We had to take this dude. Yeah.
Oh God, did we mess that one? It's like when the surgeon comes out of the operating room and sees the family. He always says, "Yeah, the operation was a success." I want to hear one when he comes on and goes, "Wow, did I mess that one up?"
Well, that's if the patient dies. Yeah. That's how that goes. And even then, they won't admit it. But Bob, we appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you next week. Bob Labriola, the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears. He is Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here where you're listening now, or you can download the Steelers mobile app. You can also follow along on YouTube on the Steelers channel there. Give us a thumbs up and give us your comments, what you think of the show, all that fun stuff. Matt, so much of this draft talk surrounding the Steelers centers on the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Who, if anybody, would you be willing or comfortable taking at 21 of this quarterback draft? Assuming Cam Ward.
The answer might be none.
Yeah, so Cam Ward's not going to be there.
So I understand I'm on an island on this, but my Steeler-only quarterback ranks would go Ward, Milro, Sanders. I'm not sure between Dart and Shuck. Now, and Lab's had some good points. We think we know where these guys are going, but we don't, especially the quarterback position, I think, in this year maybe more than ever. For where they're projected to go, Milro and Shuck are my favorite and at cost.
Yeah.
Now, I've also gone back and forth. Would you take Sanders at 21? Maybe.
I'm in the same boat.
And would you take Milro at 21? I'm a maybe.
I can't take Milro at 21.
See, if they're both sitting there, I would pick Milro over Sanders.
The floor is too low.
Yeah, I think Sanders' floor is lower than he gets credit for too, though.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
but I think there's more tools to work with as a true quarterback right now.
Oh, he's better to start today for sure,
yeah.
times 1,000. Right. I really like Sanders from the neck up too.
Yeah. That would be a consideration for me. I would not consider Jackson Dart at 21 at all.
I would not. I can guarantee you I can come up with 21 players I'd pick ahead of him. And probably nowhere in the first round would I take him.
Now, if I traded back to, if it was at 38, that's a different conversation.
It's a different conversation, right.
But not at 21. Right. There's going to be somebody else there that's going to help me much, much more than what I think his ceiling can be in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. So let's focus on Sanders, because he seems like the one that could go the Saints. He could go, who knows? And I definitely think the Browns, the Giants, maybe other teams might move around for his services.
Yeah.
But in a way, he almost looks like he's in no man's land to some degree today, which is lies galore.
Right. Yeah.
What worries me for the Steelers, like if I were the Saints, I would have Sanders ahead of Milro. But I'm the Steelers. I would have Milro ahead of Sanders. So if I'm doing generic rankings, I'd probably have Sanders ahead of him. I just think on his best outcome is Carr, Cousins, Geno. And I don't want to go to battle with those guys against Lamar and Burrow for the next decade. You know, I'd rather miss and come back next year and get another 2 years.
I hear you, but here's the other side of that argument.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be talking out of both sides of my mouth on this one, because I was on board with the drafting of Najee Harris a few years ago in the first round because you didn't have one.
Didn't have a back.
You didn't have a lead back at all.
Right.
And you had to have a lead back coming out of that. So why not take the guy that you feel is the best suited to be that guy with that first round pick?
See, to me, that argument holds up for every other position but quarterback, because I still think you could get Carr or Cousins if Rodgers turns his back on you for this year. So I'm looking for this for the next 10. And I think Sanders has a chance to have a good career and be a good starter. I don't know that I can get where I need to be with a good starter, especially when I have to pay him in 5 years. Now, I mentioned like the Saints for him.
You don't have to pay him in 5
No,
years.
you don't. But
you can
everyone
flip
does.
him for somebody else.
Yeah.
And,
I don't want to be in the Tua Purdy neighborhood either.
Right.
But that's 5 years down the road. You can draft Hurts in the second round even when you'd Wentz, Sanders specifically worries me a little bit in this area of the country too. He's not a power thrower, and he doesn't have the athleticism trump card to get out of trouble when the snow's bad and the field in Cleveland's crappy, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
those are legitimate concerns.
Yeah. If I'm the Saints, I'm the Falcons, I'm the Panthers, most of my games don't matter that way. You know, I mean, it's kind of like Tua. I mean, where I love his toughness. I've opened my mind more to Sanders than I did a month ago because I think it's
a month ago he wasn't going to be a consideration.
Yeah, it's more real now that they might actually have that decision. But I come down to it, if the chips are on the table and I get to pick Milro or Sanders, and those are my only options. I can't trade out Grant and Nolan, and those guys don't even exist. I would pick Milro, but I very much understand I'm in the minority.
Yeah, I'm not using the 21st pick in the draft on Jalen Milro.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm using on any is, I guess, the first question you asked.
That would be the bigger portion of this. And
I don't know if either would be in my 21.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a different story than how it really goes, too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's all it's part of the conundrum right now that you face. And again, I think if you knew – I'm assuming like they know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers much more so than anybody is putting out there.
I assume, and I also
think that factors into it. I think if they,
I know,
it factors into it, but it doesn't preclude them from taking a quarterback in the first round.
100%. But I also think it changes your viewpoint on a little that I don't think this quarterback they draft, whether it's at 21 or in the 7th round, plays a snap unless there's massive injuries or you're 2-10 and it's time to see what they are. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, maybe Milro would get out. He would never start a game.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they play a snap, but they would never start a game. So I'm thinking, what are they going to be a year from now? You know, to me, that's how I'm looking through the quarterback lens. Whether that's Rourke or Howard or McCord or the top guys. With Rudolph in place, I don't even need a 2.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's weird. I mean, it's kind of an odd situation. And back to kind of like we were chatting with Labs, I have a hunch that they're not just sitting there every day going, boy, I hope Aaron calls and signs.
Yeah.
They have an idea. And if he doesn't, I bet they have a Carr or a Cousins replacement plan.
Wait, Matt, you're saying they have a plan?
Right, I know, right.
A plan? An actual
People are shocked
plan?
by that, right. They're just not just rolling the dice and hope they get snake eyes. Right, come on.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. At 21.
Yeah. I would understand if it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would understand if it was Dart.
Would you understand if it's Milro? I'm not saying you do it. I would understand.
I would understand it. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but I would understand because of the ceiling.
Yeah.
What he could be.
It's just the argument that if you love a quarterback, what's too high? You know what I mean? Like, if you love him, and you got to leave this draft with him, I get it.
Well, somebody on the message board brought up, he put together 4 names. First of all 4 were black quarterbacks.
Okay.
But secondly, all 4 were drafted high in the first round.
Yeah.
It was Jamarcus Russell and Trey Lance and
we're talking about busts?
Yeah.
The guys that didn't.
He put Dwayne Haskins in that group. Okay. It was like the 11th pick in the draft. I can't remember who else was in there. Maybe it was Fields. I don't know. Taking a guy in that top 11, 12, 11 and up picks or trading up for them like the 49ers did with Trey Lance, that's a mistake.
That you can't get out of. If you just take a guy at 21, that's completely different. It's completely different. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought about maybe even us doing a whole segment on it because it was brought to my attention on a podcast today. Marcus Mosher, who was on our show once, he went and he looked at like the last 5 or 10 drafts.
I saw, and there were like 4 quarterbacks drafted between.
It's the second half of round 1 through like pick 50.
Yeah.
Which it sure looks like there's going to be guys drafted this year. And it's Pickett, Locke, Levis. Like, those guys don't even exist anymore.
And I think Hurts was the other one.
Maybe. Yeah.
There was like one true hit.
Hurts may even been picked too late in round 2.
There was somebody in that group that was a good player.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's been no man's land.
Yeah.
And they're all on different teams.
But that's been largely because of how the drafts have gone in recent years. The quarterbacks, you didn't used to see the quarterbacks all get clustered at the top of the first round.
Right.
That was not the case 15 years ago.
Now, that doesn't mean everyone that's picked between 16 and 50 in this draft is going to stink. Forget about them.
Right.
I mean, they got no chance. But it is weird that basically what the point is, if the league loves them, they don't last till 20. You know what I mean? And if they don't, there's questions, and that position's so hard, it's hard to hit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if we were sitting here as a Buffalo podcast radio show, we might be like, this class stinks. I don't want to worry about it, But sometimes you squint this time of year and you're like, well, I can see where Milro would, what I mean? I worry that I'm doing that with Milro.
I think you are to a certain degree.
Probably.
I mean, he is very unrefined as a passer.
No question.
There's no doubt about it. But he has a trump card that nobody else in this draft has.
Exactly.
He is every bit the runner that Lamar Jackson is, and he might be better in some facets.
Might be. Yeah, I mean, more physical. He doesn't have like the stop start or maybe the vision, but he's big and strong, and he is a rocket
He's
ship,
a better runner than Fields was.
Right. And again, I've never met the young man, but the thing I like best about him is how they're raving about the intelligence and the character and the academic Heisman and all that stuff too. Like,
both
there's any of those
both of his parents were in the military.
Were in the military, right?
You know what kind of young man you're getting.
Yes, and I always say that. Like, if you don't have that, that only gets you to the table.
Yeah.
Now you got to have the traits. Well, he's got traits.
There's traits.
There's traits, you know what I mean? And I'm not questioning Sanders or Dart or any of those guys from that regard, but I just know if he hits, he'll hit the biggest of all of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's got the highest ceiling.
No question.
So where do you measure that in? That's going to be the question. Where do you factor that?
And if 2 years from now you're like, well, he's never going to do it, it doesn't destroy you, especially if you get him at 35.
I might make him a wide receiver or a running back.
Right. Maybe he's your kick returner or whatever, too. He's do something.
There's something. He'll find ways to get him on the field. Anyways, that's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more in hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, starting hour number 2 here. It's time for us to do a little mock draft.
All right.
We're going to use the Pro Football Focus mock drafter today. And the first 20 picks are in. We only have one trade offer, so I think we might be sticking and picking. It's the Lions at 28, but
it's not a terrible place.
Okay, so you got Luther Burden, Josh Simmons, Emeka Egbuka, Kelvin Banks, tackle from Texas, James Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee, Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina, Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, Omar Norman Lott. They got him a lot higher than, I don't see that. Gray Zabel, tackle from North Dakota, or offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Trey Amos, who was in for a visit. Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon. Shamar Stewart, who was in for a visit. Jaden Higgins, who was in for a visit. Boy, Derek Harmon is still there.
And I say all 3 of the tackles gone? Defensive tackles?
Derek Harmon is still there.
Considering 2 are gone, might just have to stick and
the quarterbacks. Well, Shedeur Sanders is there as well.
Oh, okay. But Nolan and Grant must be gone.
I'm just looking here. I believe that they both are. Yes.
Okay. Which it could happen.
Could happen that way.
They're good prospects. I would go Harmon.
I think I would too, just based on the discussion we just had.
I like him more and more.
I think he's a really good player.
It took me a while to say, would I take him at 21? And now I gladly would take him at 21.
Yeah. It's funny that on the Pro Football Focus boards, he's getting pushed down a little bit from where he was at before.
Really?
I feel more comfortable with him.
And the more I learn, the more I watch, the more everything about him, I am very comfortable with him.
Yeah.
Very disruptive, long. I mean, he's got a lot of traits.
We're going to stick and pick.
Yeah, I like it.
The next question then becomes, do we try to trade up into the second round?
For what?
Well, I just mentioned there's quarterbacks available.
I mean, I would strongly consider a Shuck or a Milro or whatever, or would trading up for a running back make sense? Maybe.
The right guy is there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to draft Harmon. Whoops. I screwed up. I only hit one round on that one. So we're going to let it run again here.
Right.
It shouldn't take long here. I didn't hit 7 on that one. I'm like, why is it stopping?
I've done that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm going to get the same settings in there. Okay, we're good. I assume Harmon will be our.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We'll just pick
If
Harmon.
he's there, grab him.
I'm sure he will be based on their rankings, as low as he is. Okay, so Harmon, where you at, Harmon? Where you at, Harmon? There he is. Harmon is the pick.
Okay.
Okay, whoop. I'm going to pause here. We're at 58.
Okay.
And I'm just going to look here. Scatabo went. Caleb Johnson went. This isn't lining up well for us. Looks like maybe. Yeah, it looks like both Ohio State running backs are there.
Do you have a preference? I think I'd take Henderson.
I'm a Henderson fan.
Yeah. Sounds like the league is a Henderson fan, too.
His pass protection
Goes a long way.
is like he's the best pass protector in this draft.
Yeah.
And he is 205, 210-pound running back.
They just get you on the field now.
Which will let you play now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even if you – yeah. I mean, I just think he is. So do we want to call the Texans and try to move up at 58?
We haven't done that often, but I'm up for it. I'm not thrilled about giving up my first or second next year.
Well,
for
I'm
a
not
running
giving
back.
up a first or second next
Yeah.
year, but I'll give up –
I mean, it's going to take at least a third.
we're going to give up 83.
Yeah.
I'm going to put – okay. Next year's 2. Well, they'll definitely do it for that.
Yeah, I don't want to get rid of next year's, too.
Next year's 2 alone
I'd consider next year's 2 and like a 5 this year.
let's see if they'll take 185. There's a 71% chance of being accepted.
Could we do next year's 2 and a 6?
Let me see if they would take our 3 and next year's 3. They would take that.
Yeah, I figured that would get it done.
And we might even be able to get a little sweetener back in the back end of it.
I think I'd rather dump a late pick this year and next year's 2.
Next year's 2.
Makes for better radio for this, too.
That's
'cause
true.
I have the third-round pick. But, I mean, Vegas is telling us Henderson has a really good chance to go in the first round.
True. I'm just thinking, okay.
Moving up for him.
So here's what
It's
I've
of
come up
interest.
with. 58 and 166
Okay.
for next year's 2 and pick 156, which is a 5th-round pick this year.
Let's do it. Something different we never do.
Let's see if they accept it first. And they did.
Okay.
Okay, so the players available to us here.
Well, we trade up for Henderson.
Well,
Yeah.
there's some other guys, though. You got Swessinger. Okay, Dylan Sampson. Elijah Arojo, the tight end out of Miami. Travion Henderson. Oladejo, the edge rusher from UCLA. Mukuba, the safety from Texas. Quinshad Junk is also there. But so is Jalen Milro.
I prefer Milro, but, I mean, our intentions were to go get Henderson. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
and he might last to pick 83.
It's possible, yeah.
But we want to have the running back in hand. I think while this is a deep running back draft, I think there's 4 guys that stand out
It's difference makers.
as difference makers.
Yeah.
And Johnson's on the periphery of that.
He would fit this scheme well.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's not for everybody.
Right. And he's already gone in this particular draft.
Okay.
Which would make me all the more want to trade up and
I mean, you get a lot more explosive with Metcalf and Henderson on this offense.
yeah. All right, Travion Henderson it is. And we kept our pick at 83. We don't have a second-round pick next year. Okay. We are up now at pick 83. And guess what? Jalen Milro is still available.
I think you do it.
Yeah, he pulled the trigger on that right away.
And it's going to be harder to, without a second, it's going to be harder to move up in round 1 next year.
yeah.
If that's a path you have to take
But
or
that's-
whatever. Maybe
I've
that
got
answer's
a
already
young
happened,
quarterback now.
Right.
Okay. And you know what? If I really fall in love with somebody next year,
I'm trading future first.
I'll trade a
and
first.
yeah.
I'll 2 future first to move up to do what I got to do.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. We're up at 123. Top players available. Savion Jones, the edge rusher out of LSU. R.J. Mickens, a safety out of Clemson. Jaden Blue, running back out of Texas. Isaac Tesla, wide receiver from Arkansas. Trevor Etienne, running back out of Georgia. Gunnar Helm, tight end from Texas. I really think we need to get a nose.
I would say I want a D lineman.
Yeah.
I'm looking big people here.
So I'm going to just go look at the big people. Top guys available. Ty Robinson from Nebraska. Cameron Jackson from Florida.
I'd consider Jackson there.
Yeah. Tim Smith from Alabama.
I think I'd prefer Jackson.
Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU. He's not a nose. So Tonka Hemingway, not really a nose. So I think it comes down to Cameron Jackson or Tim Smith.
I prefer Jackson, but they're pretty similar.
Big space eater.
Yeah. We got size and physicality in the middle of your defense, minimal snaps. You taking those over a receiver or an O-lineman?
Well, let me see what receiver. You're looking at Tesla, Isaiah Bond, Ty Felton, Pat Bryant, Kanata Mumfield. I don't necessarily need a receiver at this point because
none of those names are leaping off the page.
Henderson's a really good receiver too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to help you there, and your second-round pick was a receiver. Looking at the offensive lineman, Jalen Rivers is there. Brandon
Small note,
Crenshaw-Dixon.
but they did sign Max Sharping since we got together last, who's another one that'll probably make the team.
Yeah, not a throwaway guy. He's a guy that's
right.
started about, I think, 35, 40 games in the league. Interior offensive lineman Seth McLaughlin, the center from Ohio State. Willie Lampkin. Nobody really standing out there.
Yeah, I would say let's go with the nose.
Yeah. Cameron Jackson, it is.
Okay. We don't take him very often, but
we got big and beefy.
Yeah, real huge, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're back out. We got 166, which is the pick that we got.
Okay, back
in addition. Top players available. R.J. Mickens, the safety out of Clemson. Ty Robinson, still there. Defensive lineman from Nebraska. Jordan Hancock, the safety out of Ohio State.
Okay.
Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas. Craig Woodson, the safety out of Cal. Kanata Mumfield, wide receiver from Pitt. Woodson, I just want to check something.
I think Woodson's pretty slot capable.
He's played a decent amount of slot in his career.
I know DJ's really high on him.
Yeah. And he's 6 foot, 210 pounds. Could he be your big slot?
Maybe. But I also think Thornhill could too.
I think Thornhill can do that as well. But it's a 1-year contract for Thornhill, and it's tough to get another safety onto the roster.
That's the problem.
The hard part.
Is if you draft a D-back, I'd really like it to be someone to fight with Trice.
Yeah.
You know?
I hear you. Jackson Haas still there. I'm just going to mention the names that stand out to me. Dante Thornton, the wide receiver out of Tennessee.
I think he's intriguing. Just have him learn just kind of watch what Metcalf and Pickens do to some degree and basically redshirt them.
Connor Colby, the guard out of Iowa. Iowa offensive linemen are often, you know what you're getting there. Tyler Cooper, the guard out of Minnesota.
I'm sure tackles are gone.
Zaw Frazier is still there.
He fits that mold.
Jason Marshall, the cornerback out of Florida. Jalen Travis, the tackle out of Iowa State.
Not terrible, yeah.
We haven't talked much about him, but he's certainly 6'7", 340 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a guard, but
intriguing, yeah.
340 pounds.
Yeah.
6'7" guard or tackle. Denzel Burke still there. Emory Jones still there.
Emory Jones would be my favorite name probably of the group.
Okay. You want to take Emory Jones there? We got another pick coming at 185. So.
Yeah.
All right, Emory Jones it is. Now we can go a lot of different ways here. Ty Robinson just finally went at 184.
He's been teasing us.
Look at the wide receivers. You're looking at Kanata Mumfield from Pitt, Samuel Brown from Miami, Dante Thornton from Tennessee, Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas, Keandre Lambert-Smith from Auburn, Caden Prather from Maryland's not a bad player.
I like the Auburn kid. I like the Tennessee kid.
Chimere Dyke is there.
I'm a fan of his as well. Really explosive.
So
one of those receivers is appealing.
So there's some options there. Cornerback, Zaw Frazier is still there, as is Jason Marshall, the cornerback out of Florida. Jalen Smith, the corner out of South Carolina or USC.
Both. I did a little bit of deep corner work in the last 24 hours. Smith grew on me a little bit because he's a man guy.
Yeah, I like Smith.
Yeah, I like Smith a lot. He can play inside. He was an inside, and they kicked him outside this year. PFF gave him really good grades for man.
I mean, he's not tiny. He's 5'11", 190.
Yeah. He's a typical corner size, right. That would be fine with me. I like a couple of those receiver names. Who are a couple more of the corners, if you don't mind?
Fentrell Semprus, the other Florida State cornerback. Mac McWilliams from UCF. Tommy Hill from Nebraska. Shamari Simmons.
Tommy Hill was someone I'm really interested in, too. I remember Max bringing him up at the combine.
Max likes him a lot.
He's hurt a bunch. He's big.
Yeah.
I like Tommy Hill. He's also another man guy.
You're kind of projecting a little bit, just because of that. But he's 6'205".
Yeah. He's thick.
Yeah.
I think I'd take one of those corners.
You have a feeling one way or the other?
I think I'd rather go with Hill. I don't need the inside-outside versatility quite as much. If I can get a pure outside.
Okay.
And I think Hill can do both, too, but come to think of it.
Okay. And we still have a pick left at 229. Saw Frazier still there, as is Mumfield. Jared Harrison Hunt, the defensive lineman. Could we take 3 defensive linemen? Zaw
the
Frazier.
guys they've signed, he'd be cutting somebody.
Jalen Travis, the tackle from Iowa State.
That wouldn't be bad.
That's a nice consolation prize.
Right.
Big dude.
I would take the tackle.
I'll take the tackle.
Yeah.
Jalen Travis from Iowa State.
If he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it,
Yeah. If he doesn't make it, you kick him in the guard and see if he can play that.
See what happens there.
Yeah. He's massive.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that.
Okay.
We traded back into round 2.
We traded back into round 2. We did trade next year's 2.
We don't have a second, right?
But we got Derek
Harmon.
Harmon.
Rare for us, yeah.
Defensive tackle from Oregon. We got Travion Henderson in round 2 at pick 58. We got Jalen Milro at 83. Cameron Jackson, the defensive lineman from Florida, at 123. Emory Jones, the offensive tackle from LSU, at 166. Tommy Hill, cornerback out of Nebraska, at 185. And another offensive lineman, Jalen Travis, out of Iowa State, at 229.
Not huge O-line investments, but there's 2 of them there. We'll figure out what happens in camp.
Practice squad spots.
Yeah. If that happened, if they drafted Henderson, who would you put a chip down to lead the team in rushing? Warren or Henderson?
Ooh, I would lean towards Warren.
Most backs they would take, I would take Warren, but that was a tough one.
That's a tough one.
I bet Warren would probably get more touches.
Henderson, I think, would supplant Warren as the third down back. I think Warren would take over because
roles would change.
I think the roles would switch a little bit, and Warren would become more the every down back. Again, this idea that Jalen Warren's a small back.
Yeah, it's a misconception.
He's a 215-pound running back.
Mm-hmm.
He was smaller than Najee.
He's smaller than Najee. He's one of the biggest backs in the league.
On 80% of the teams out there, he's the biggest back on the team.
Yeah, and then maybe it's not even early down, third down with those guys.
They could split it up.
Yeah.
You can find ways to put them, I can find ways to get them on the field together.
Yeah, absolutely. They're both good in
protection.
protection.
I'll put one in the slot. I'll put,
They both can protect and they both can run routes.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know. That'd be an interesting backfield.
Yeah. And then, throw Milro into the equation.
Well, yeah, in terms of ball carriers, right. Gainwell's your 3, and
But you got bigger up front defensively.
And offensively.
Added a couple of young offensive linemen to the mix there. You got a nice young cornerback that you can, maybe turn into something. And
you might have a quarterback.
And you got a running back who is coming out of high school, he was the number 1 back in the country.
Was he? It doesn't surprise me at all. But it's a nice mix of win now and build for the future. But you don't have the second next year.
You don't have the second next year. But
I like Harmon.
Yeah. And maybe you got your quarterback.
That's the key. The draft is a home run if you got your quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't care about the second. But if you didn't, then live to fight another day.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, Jordan Reed on ESPN has come out with his top, what is he calling this? Top 350 prospects.
Oh, yeah.
Which is more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ranks 600.
I forgot about that. I didn't know what the number was, but that's
600 is way too many.
And again, no one's gonna be like
most teams really have about 200 guys on their board.
Some have way less.
Most.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't have to get that far into it.
So just looking here, he has Travis Hunter number 1.
I agree with that.
Abdul Carter 2.
Okay.
He has Mason Graham number 3.
Yeah, it starts to get hairy after a while, but that's not where I would have him.
He has Ashton Genty number 4. Armand Membo number 5.
He'd be my number 1 lineman, but Simmons is hard to talk about.
At 6, he has Jalen Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. So this is where this whole draft goes off the rails.
I say it's crazy. If Graham and Walker are 3, 4, 5, 6 neighborhood, that doesn't say a lot about the draft to me.
He has Will Campbell 7, the guard out of LSU. That lists him as a guard. He's an offensive tackle. Is Cam Ward at 8.
Okay.
Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan, at 9.
I like him, but didn't have a very good year, and he's not fast, and he's kind of a zone-only guy.
Yeah. Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, is at 10.
I didn't notice this until I was staring at the Beast today. Loveland's like almost 2 full years younger than Warren. Warren's a late breakout guy, a lot of manufactured stuff. I like the player, but he's not a slam dunk either.
He has Jihad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, at 11.
That's pretty high, but I understand it. There's a lot there to like.
Yeah. The thing
we don't talk about him much.
The only thing that worries me about him is he had surgery for a labrum tear.
I know.
Right after the combine.
Yeah, very shortly.
Like, again, I had a labrum tear, and I rehabbed the heck out of it because I had to get ready. I had it in December, and I told my physical therapist, I'm like, I got to be ready for baseball season, at the beginning of March. And he worked me hard. Now, he's obviously not working as hard as these guys are.
I bet Campbell is as well.
But it took me a while to get the full range back.
I bet. Like, what's the usual recovery time? Is it
like 6 months or so?
Is what they're supposed to be,
yeah.
You wonder, is he going to be in minicamp and things like
that?
No,
they said it was a slight tear of the labrum.
Still, they went in there and did surgery.
Labrum.
Right?
They do surgery in there. It's that's not a walk in the park.
Right. No,
I mean, that's what ended Tony Baselli's career.
Was it? It was a shoulder?
It was a labrum injury.
Okay.
And he had the surgery, and they screwed it up.
I was getting confused because there's a bunch of labrums in the body, aren't there?
Yeah. Well, every cup joint, basically.
Okay.
12, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss.
I totally get it.
13, Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia.
Not as violent or explosive as I'd like.
14, Tedero McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona.
Is Golden your wide receiver 1? I could even make a case for Burden. Like, I don't think any of them are wide receiver 1s.
Yeah, I don't love any. They're a bunch of wide receiver 2s is what they are.
Right.
Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State at 15.
I mean, I've heard that there's a little bit of immaturity. Yeah, he's a younger player. His tape before his injury was against all the bad teams. He didn't last in the playoffs and all that. But even if all those things are sort of true, he's most talented.
One of his games came against Mike Green.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he shut down Mike Green.
Yeah. I mean, he's the most talented tackle in the draft.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear. 16
is Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan.
I'm a fan.
17 is Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia.
Okay. But it says a lot. He's a good prospect. He's not a special prospect.
18 is Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall.
He's growing on me more and more.
I like him a lot as a player.
Yeah, if you need an edge.
19 is Shedeur Sanders.
Fair.
Quarterback out of Colorado. 20, Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle out of Texas.
I see some concerns about him, too, but he's a guard at worst.
Yeah. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State at 21.
I wonder, like Banks and Egbuka, they both seem pretty safe. Like, maybe neither one's going to be Pro Bowlers. But in this draft, maybe you're just happy with safe?
Maybe. Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina at 22. 23 is Matthew Golden, wide receiver from Texas. Those are the guys, those first 23 are the guys that he has with a true first-round grade. Which seems even a little...
It's way too high.
It's a little rich for me.
I'm not sure how many. I might have 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah. Starting off his guys with round 2 grades. Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas.
Okay.
Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama.
Scheme specific.
Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon.
I look at Harmon like he's closer to Nolan than he is some of these guys.
And that's at 27.
Yeah.
28, Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. 29, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan.
I feel a lot more confident about the 3D linemen than a lot of these players.
30, Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri.
I will say about Burden, if you just watch his 23 tape, is the best of any receivers in this draft.
Yeah. But last year was
a mess.
31, Donovan Azareku, the edge rusher out of Boston College.
Plays the run well, too. Solid player.
32 is Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State. So 3 interior offensive linemen in his top 32, but they all have round 2 grades on them.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
I
which
think
is
they're
why I
all-
don't know that any of those guys go in the first round.
I don't know if they should.
Right.
I mean,
Because you do have to start, especially if you're picking at the end of the first round. You're like, okay, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to plug him into my line. And because we're good and we're going to be on TV a lot, and we're going to play, presumably play in conference. Maybe he makes the Pro Bowl a couple of times in the next 2 years. And now all of a sudden I got to pay him $25 million.
You're going with the 5th year, yeah.
It's a Trey Smith argument. Like, Trey Smith's a good player.
Right.
But was he, a $25 million a year player? Like, no.
But speaking of the Chiefs, if you're sitting there 31 and you take Donovan Jackson, I totally understand it.
I get it.
Yeah, right.
But,
maybe win the Super Bowl this year.
Nick Emuwari, safety out of South Carolina at 33. Siobhan Ravel, the cornerback out of East Carolina at 34.
He could hit big.
Yeah.
But who knows?
35, Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State.
He's my 3rd running back.
I had him at 2
Did you?
in our first rankings. I bump Hampton ahead of him. He's a good player.
He is.
36, Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon. See, that's the thing. If I'm looking at these guys, the guards, I'm taking the tackle.
I'm taking Connerly, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm the Texans.
If I'm going to pay a tackle price in the first round,
yeah.
I might as well take a tackle.
I'd say I think the tackles are going to go earlier.
James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee at 37. 38, Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky.
He seems like a late 2 to me that's going to go in the top 40.
39 is Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU.
Solid. I think he's another safe one.
Yeah. Trey Amos at 40, the cornerback out of Ole Miss. Elijah Arojo at 41, tight end out of Miami. Quinshawn Judkins, the running back from Ohio State, at 42.
Fair.
Ariante Ursary, the offensive tackle from Minnesota, at 43.
I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league, or in the draft.
44 is Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo.
Was in today, right?
Yep. 45 is Jonas Iavania, the offensive lineman from Arizona.
There's a chance he's a tackle.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
46 is TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina.
We don't talk about him much, but that's about where he should go.
Yeah.
Playoff team in the second round.
47, Carson Schlesinger, the linebacker out of UCLA.
I bet he goes pretty high. There's not many off-the-ball backers. If you need one
Yeah.
and you don't get Campbell, he's going to go pretty early.
48 is Azareye'h Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State.
Good, but not if you're a 4-6 guy.
49 is Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback from Notre Dame.
Him and Ravel are both really intriguing to
Yeah.
me, but I'm not a doctor.
Nick Scourton, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, completes his 50. Other guys that he has with round 2 grades on them. Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, that's as high as I've seen him.
I don't think he's bad. I think he's a starter.
I don't have him ahead of their other interior offensive linemen.
No.
Jackson Dart at 52.
It's bold, and I like it.
Tyleik Williams at 53, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State.
That's late for me.
Marcus Mbao, the guard from Purdue. Kyle Williams at 55, the wide receiver out of Washington State.
Good.
That's about as high as I've seen him.
We were just talking about how we think he's underrated.
Xavier Watts, a safety from Notre Dame, 56.
Solid. Wish he was a little bit better athlete, but I can get away with it at safety.
Alfred Collins at 57, the defensive tackle from Texas.
If you had to pick between Alfred Collins and Malik Williams, you only get one of them for the Steelers. You have no other D linemen. Who do you pick?
Collins is a he's way
Swatting
bigger.
down walls. I mean, he's a tree. He's an oak tree in the middle of a redwood.
He might even be able to play some 3-4-N for you.
Oh, I think he can.
Yeah.
I think he can. I just think what Williams does, he does better than anything Collins does.
Jaden Higgins at 58, wide receiver out of
Pretty late,
Iowa
too.
State.
I think he'll go a little way before that.
Landon Jackson at 59, edge rusher from Arkansas. Jalen Milro at 60.
Okay.
JT Tuamaloa at 61.
These are all second-round grades.
These are all second-round grades. Edge rusher out of Ohio State. Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss at 62. Emory Jones, the guard from LSU, offensive tackle guard from LSU at 63.
Yeah, I don't understand him as a fifth-round pick.
His round 3 prospects, I'll just hit on some of the bigger names here. Caleb Johnson at 64.
I'm fine with that, especially with that position.
DJ Giddens, the running back from K-State, at 66. Jalen Noel, the wide receiver from Iowa State, at 68. Right after him is Jack Beck at 69. We got C.J. West at 76, the defensive tackle
That's
out of
about
Indiana.
right to me. I could see him going on day 2.
Elika Yemenor at 77, wide receiver out of Stanford.
I'm a fan.
Josh Farmer, defensive tackle out of Florida State at 78.
Good D tackles in this neighborhood.
Tate Ratledge is at 79, the guard from Georgia. Noel Williams, cornerback out of Cal at 80.
We were talking about how he's underrated. I think that's about where he belongs, yeah.
You got Quincy Riley, cornerback out of Louisville at 85. It's a little higher than most, aren't
Yeah, it is.
Jalen Royals, a wide receiver from Utah State, is at 86. Jamari Caldwell at 89, the defensive tackle from Oregon.
Yeah, a couple noses in this neighborhood.
Let's see here. Round 4, Devin Neal at 97, the running back out of Kansas.
Yeah. Pursuit is a fan.
Kyle McCord is at 100. R.J. Harvey, the running back from UCF, who was in with the Steelers yesterday, at 101. Tyler Shuck, all the way down at 103.
It's pretty late.
Dylan Sampson, running back from Tennessee, all the way down at 105.
I see a lot of mixed takes on him, and I
Yeah.
understand it. It's such a weird offense.
A weird offense.
And he's a little smaller, but he's good with the ball in his hands.
Damian Martinez from Miami, the running back at 108.
He's one of my favorites for where he's slotted to go.
Yeah. J.J. Pegues, the nose tackle out of Ole Miss, is at 112. Got Zaw Frazier all the way up at 116 at a UTSA.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, he's Bashal Tootin is right after him, running back out of Virginia Tech.
It's a good neighborhood to go running back.
117,
shopping.
yeah.
I know he was traded up for one, but if you don't get one in the first 2 days, you're going to get somebody who's pretty decent.
Yeah, Charles Grant is there in that neighborhood from William & Mary, the offensive tackle. You're looking at, we got Jordan Phillips, the nose tackle out of Maryland at 127.
Had a lot of noses lately.
Yeah, Scatabo, Cam Scatabo's at 129. So there's a bunch of backs rated ahead of Scatabo.
Yeah, I'm souring on. I think his athleticism is pretty poor.
Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher from Ohio State, all the way down at 135.
Good. That's what I think he is.
Right ahead of Upton Stout,
Okay.
back out of Western Kentucky. Let's see here. Who else? Anybody else of note? Vernon Broughton at 148, the defensive tackle. His round 4 is massive.
Really,
A lot of guys with round 4. It goes all the way. It goes from pick 96 all the way down to 164.
Wow.
There aren't that many round 4 picks.
Obviously,
these are the guys
right.
he has graded as round 4 guys. Cameron Jackson in that group as well, the defensive tackle.
So that's pretty much covers the
Florida.
first 5 rounds would be
Yeah.
4-round grades for him.
Right.
Including comp picks.
His round 5 prospect goes from 165 down to 217.
Wow.
The draft's almost over at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
This is what we're talking about when we say this is a deeper draft.
It's not super important, but like who's 217 for him? Like who the end of the round 5 guys?
You got
Give me like a small neighborhood.
Yaha Black at 212,
Okay.
defensive tackle from Iowa. Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle from Georgia Tech. Mac McWilliams, the cornerback out of UCF. Jackson Woodard, linebacker from UNLV.
They're all getting drafted. They're not like free
Cam
agent
Horsley,
types, right?
the
right.
defensive tackle out of Boston College, and Arian Smith, the wide receiver from Georgia,
Who can fly.
who can flat out fly.
Mm-hmm.
His round 6 goes from 218 to 280,
Wow. He might be a little generous grader.
and round 7 prospects goes from 281 all the way down to, I take it, 350 because he did 350, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
But I don't disagree that there's a lot of 4th, 5th round type guys
Yeah.
here. More than the 4th or
most.
5th round can
Yeah.
hold.
It's top heavy. It's not top heavy,
Mm-mm.
but it does have depth.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet when we look back 5-10 years from now, I'll be like, well, there were some mid-round guys there that really hit.
Yeah.
You
just got to find the right ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
But you don't pay as much for them.
you do not. So let's get to a break here. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, we just traded up for running back in our mock draft.
Mm-hmm. Crazy move for us.
Crazy move. And some people say, well, you don't. Why would you trade up for a running back in this particular draft? Because it's so deep in running back.
Yeah, and it's a strong point.
I get it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think if you identify a guy that you think is a difference maker,
Mm-hmm.
it's no different than any other position. Like, I want to go get the guy that I want.
A difference maker at a position of need in particular. I mean, you need to get one. The offense is really I mean, just keep it Steelers-centric. The offense has lacked explosion. It's lacked playmakers for too long now, and if it's Rodgers orchestrating it with a five-some of, well, even a eight-some of Freiermuth, Washington, Metcalf, Pickens, Warren, Henderson, and Austin or Wilson. That's a lot better than what you've been operating with people that touch the football since Ben.
Yeah.
You want to fix a problem, you got to
fix the problem.
Yeah. I mean, you got to break eggs to make an omelet or whatever,
Yeah.
It's not free.
I look here at the running backs that have been taken in the first round over the last few drafts.
Okay.
None last year.
Right.
It was not a great running back draft class.
Yeah. Who was the first running back?
Jonathan Brooks.
Okay, Brooks and Benson.
And then Benson and Blake Corum
and
and Marshawn Lloyd, and a lot of them were hurt.
Yeah, and it's not looking great so far.
The year before that, well, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs were both first-round draft picks.
Home runs, right.
Nobody's going to argue that they weren't worth the picks.
No, right. And they were pretty high picks.
Yeah.
Right.
2022, Breece Hall was the 36th pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good player.
Like, I'd trade next year's second for the rookie version of Breece Hall.
Yeah. Kenneth Walker went with pick 41.
I'm still a fan.
Yeah. James Cook also went in the second round that year at pick 63.
That's starting to look pretty good.
That's those are good players. In 2021, you had Najee Harris at 24, Travis Etienne at 25. Javonte Williams was the 35th pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm. So.
Najee Harris, I don't care what people. He was a hit at 24.
Yeah. Etienne's looking pretty rough, and
he's had
Williams got hurt.
One good year, and
the
rest has been, and Williams just got hurt. But again, so the year before that was 2020. Only one back in the first round. That was Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32. That was another one of those.
But that was a good class
where people said during the draft, I can't believe the people let the Chiefs get Clyde Edwards-Helaire
right
in the draft. Well, thank God that they didn't they got him instead of
Jonathan
Taylor,
right.
Or even DeAndre Swift would have made that a much bigger.
Even Dobbins at the time had a much better first 2 years of his career.
Right,
Edwards-Helaire is the biggest miss of them all.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I will say I really liked that group. I mean, Akers was the other one, and it didn't pan out as much as I expected. I mean, Edwards-Helaire was still my 5. I was shocked they took him.
Yeah,
but I expected that group to produce more than they did.
2019, Josh Jacobs went at pick 24.
He's been really good.
Good player. Miles Sanders went at 53.
Mixed, but that's not super early.
Yeah, he's had his moments.
Yeah.
There was not another pick in the first 2 rounds.
And one of the arguments, obviously, is these guys don't last. I mean, a lot of these dudes, their story's probably already over.
Yeah.
The Akers and Sanders and,
Saquon Barkley went at 2 overall in 2018.
Mm-hmm. Well, the super high picks have all been hit.
They hit.
I mean, the top 10 running backs have been superstars.
Christian McCaffrey was the 8th overall pick. Dalvin Cook went at 41.
This is an awesome draft.
It's a long time ago. Joe Mixon, that draft to me, that 2017 draft is closer to, I think, what this one
I agree.
might be. You had Leonard Fournette at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of an overdraft.
A bit, but it wasn't horrible.
No.
I mean, it
changed the face of that team, really.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey at 8.
He might go to the Hall of Fame.
Dalvin Cook at 41.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mixon at 48. Alvin Kamara at 67. At 86 was Kareem Hunt.
Okay.
Deontay Foreman at 89, who is still in the league.
Yeah.
James Conner at 105.
I could see Martinez having a James Conner type of career.
Samaje Perine at 114, still in the league. Tariq Cohen at 119. Again, that's that smaller back.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't last as long.
No, they don't.
Joe Williams went to the 49ers at 121. Donnell Pumphrey at 132, but Jamal Williams at 134 to the Packers.
And there's another Packer back here that's still churning along pretty well.
You had Wayne Gallman at 140 to the Giants. Marlon Mack at 143 to the Colts.
A decent career.
Brian Hill to the Falcons at 156. Jeremy McNichols at 162 to the Buccaneers, still in the league.
Yeah.
TJ Logan at 179 to the Cardinals. Aaron Jones
is
at 182 to the Packers. Just looking at anybody, the other guys hit. Chris Carson to the Seahawks in the 7th round.
That's a home run, too, considering what he is. So what's that, like 24, 25 backs, something like that?
There were 30 backs that year that got drafted. I bet
you're about the same this year.
Probably about half of which hit.
Right.
But all the early guys did.
Yeah, I say that if your 6th-rounder end up playing a year or two and turn into a special teamer, that happens every year, you know.
That's why a lot of times when we do our mock drafts, at least we double down. Take 2 of them.
Oh, I have no problem with that. Like if Harvey's your first back taken, I'll take another one to 6.
Yeah. But if I'm going to make the trade up and go get one of those top 4 guys, if I'm getting Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, or Joe Mixon, or even Alvin Kamara, I'm good.
Yeah. I like the Packer approach of Williams Jones.
They waited, but they took multiple.
Or get a big dog, right?
Yeah. They took 3 backs in that draft.
They did. I forget the third guy's name.
The first one was Jamal Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Then they took Aaron Jones, and then they took Devontae Mays out of Utah State.
I can't condone that.
Unless you got like 14 picks.
All right. I mean, how do they make the roster?
Yeah.
I mean,
but they've done that with the wide receiver position too.
They have. That's fine. I'm sure you corrected the problem with 3 cheap picks, but someone's getting left out.
Yeah. But I look at that draft, that 2017 draft, as kind of the blueprint for this draft. Yes, I think you can get backs anywhere, as people like to say.
Yeah.
But those top guys, those guys you take in the first 2 rounds, they seldom miss.
Like I think the Niners traded up for Joe Williams in that draft. I remember Shanahan loved this guy and was standing on the table for him. They traded up in the mid-rounds and missed. Well, they didn't correct their problem. They had to trade for McCaffrey, you know.
Yeah, but the 49ers, they never make any mistakes.
Their drafting isn't that great.
Not great.
I mean, their mid-round stuff's pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
They make a lot of mid-round picks, too. They drafted a kicker. They drafted a backup tight end lately. I mean, it hasn't been great.
Yeah, so...
They've also took Solomon Thomas and Trey Lance and some guys at the real top of the draft that were bad.
I know people are probably going to be commenting on the YouTube channel, why would you guys trade up for a 2nd-round back? Well, again, I think there's 4 or 5 guys in this draft that I think there's no way these guys bust.
Yeah, I think
unless they get hurt.
Well, of course. I mean, Javonte Williams and those dudes, right. And they're more likely to get hurt than other positions, but everyone can get hurt. I mean, I think there's a misconception only running backs get hurt. And frankly, we hadn't done it before. Let's see what the build looks like. I mean, that's why we do some of these mocks too. Do we like the end results when we do that? It was interesting. Yeah.
Came out of liking a lot of what we got.
Right. I mean, you end up with Harmon and Henderson, your first 2 picks. That's a lot of help for this year.
Yeah, and then you get Milro. That's like the icing on the cake.
Right. I mean, there's a good balance of dudes that are going to play now and maybe the future. You know?
So, anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So, for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and the soundboard, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure our video gets out there on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up on that. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.